You gotta be kidding me! Hey, what's going on, guys? We are back at it again today with another Guardian Druid guide. This time, taking a look at Covenants. Not which one's best, not which one's worst, but taking a hardcore critical look at what each has to offer and figuring out which one might mesh best with your playstyle and the content you enjoy doing. Let's get into it. Before we get started, I'd like to take a second to thank the sponsor of this video, and that is my Twitch channel. It's only through the love and support of the Rage Nation that I'm able to continue to make content, so thank you guys.
Don't even think about it. Oh, yeah.
Alright, now as promised, we're going to be taking a look at the 4 different covenants, their abilities, how they work, and the situations wherein I find they have the best synergy. What I will not be doing is telling you which covenant is the best. That would be my opinion and utterly useless to you. At the end of the video, I'll announce the covenant of my choice and why I feel it best suits my playstyle, but this should be an entirely personal choice, and I find the game to be more exciting if people find new ways to play a spec instead of seeing the same one copied and pasted across all content. That being said, the first up to bat are the Night Fae. As with all my videos, all the information found here was either collected on the beta or from wowhead.com. Now, the Night Fae are the eternal guardians of nature and ushers of the ever-rotating cycle of life and death. They have a major part to play in the experiences we've seen on Azeroth, as they've helped guide powerful spirits such as the Loa or Wild Gods back to Azeroth after their time slumbering has come to pass. For those who watched the Afterlife cinematic, you were able to see this transition firsthand with the passing of the Spirit of Ursoc after the events of the Emerald Nightmare. The Night Fae center their home in Ardenweald, which is the dark opposite side of the coin to the Emerald Dream. Those who have a strong tie to the elements and forces of nature will find welcome here. The gifts imparted to Guardian Druids who follow the Night Fae are the ability to Convoke the Spirits and the ability to Soul Shape. The first ability, Convoke the Spirits, causes a burst of energy for 4 seconds and usable every 2 minutes, within which the Guardian Druid will cast 12 spells on both himself and all targets in the area, both friend and foe. These spells include Mangle, Ironfur, Moonfire, Wrath, Regrowth, Rejuvenation, Rake, and Thrash on the appropriate targets. The second ability, Soul Shape, turns you into a Vulpin, increasing movement speed by 50% and allowing you to teleport forward every few seconds. This lasts 12 seconds outside of rest areas and indefinitely while within. Now let's take a look at these abilities in action and figure out where and how they might fall in line. My first impression of Convoke the Spirits is that it might synergize well with those that prefer running Balance or Feral Affinities, as they won't have the passive healing from Resto Affinity or the ability to kite and toss out very effective heals on themselves. The built-in healing and defensives will allow them to engage an enemy or enemies and worry less about where their next heal is coming from. It also seems like it might be a very strong ability for someone who enjoys PvP. Being a tank who doesn't have to leave his defensive form to throw out heals on nearby allies, while also laying down strong bursts of damage, could be very useful in a clutch situation in arenas or battlegrounds. As for Soul Shape, this ability could be highly valuable in any number of situations, whether it be a high mobility raid encounter, dungeon kiting, or fast-paced maneuvers in PvP. It's bound to come in handy more than just a couple of times. Now that we've taken a close look at the Night Fae, let's move on to our next covenant, the Ventier. The Ventier are vampiric people who seek out souls shackled by pride, greed, and apathy, and grant atonement through purification to prevent them an eternity sentence in the maw. Their home in the Shadowlands is the land of Rivendreth, which bears many similar structures to those witnessed in Icecrown. Those who have allowed themselves to be weighed down by any of these sins of vanity will be welcomed through their atonement here. The gifts imparted to Guardian Druids who follow the Ventier are a manifestation of their own inner Ravenous Frenzy and the ability to move rapidly through doors of shadow. The first ability, Ravenous Frenzy, stacks your sins for 20 seconds, increasing your damage and healing by 2% and haste by 1% per stack. However, if you cease your assault for more than 2 seconds, your frenzy turns on you, consuming 1% of your health per stack and stunning you for 1 second before dissipating. The second ability, Door of Shadows, allows you to tap into the shadows and traverse across them to a maximum of 35 yards. This acts as a quickly casted teleport usable on a minute cooldown. Now that we've taken the time to discuss what these abilities are, let's see them actually in use. My first impression of Ravenous Frenzy is that it would synergize well with a number of different Guardian playstyles. Because it enhances not only damage, but also healing and haste, your playstyle would really be more oriented around the legendary you choose rather than this Covenant. All of the videos I've made thus far on Guardian legendaries have been done with the Ventier as the chosen Covenant, so there's absolutely the opportunity to see a high level of output. It seems like this Covenant will be strong across the board as well, but if used for PvP, you would have to look into using the Rage of the Sleeper legendary to prevent yourself from being stunned and therefore losing all that health. I've used this ability to high effect on pack pulls and dungeons, allowing me to either focus purely on output or generating quick threat to be able to kite and use Resto Affinity to top the party. This ability would well synergize with players that understand sacrifice and know how to weave their abilities to maximize the number of stacks generated to ensure its maximum effect. As for Door of Shadows, the mobility and possible ability to use the teleport to skip mobs and dungeons is something I would imagine Dungeoneers are excited to try out. Also, it only being on a minute cooldown makes it extremely useful in raid encounters, as it has a 30-second shorter cooldown than Soul Shape. Now that we've taken a closer look at the Ventier, let's move on to our next Covenant, the Necrolords. The Necrolords, which are composed of liches, spies, and warlords, are the militant branch of the Shadowlands, and their sole purpose is to ensure no exterior forces prevent the natural cycle of death. As the Necrolords value power in all its forms, the souls which they seek are those who exemplify ruthlessness and conviction. Maldraxxus is home to this Covenant and bears a striking resemblance to the Eastern Plague Lands, using bone frames, fungal masses, and general undeath to characterize each and every structure and Denzian. Guardian Druid, who has joined the ranks of the Necrolords, learned the ability to command plague swarms of insects to use for their benefit, and to weave flesh and bone to craft a shield which absorbs damage directed at them. The first ability, Adaptive Swarm, costs 5% of your base mana and uses a swarm to either heal an ally or deal damage to a foe over 12 seconds. After the time expires, the swarm alternates between friend and foe up to 3 times. This ability is on a 25-second cooldown. The second ability, Fleshcraft, creates a shield that absorbs damage not exceeding 20% of your maximum health for 2 minutes. If used near a corpse, however, this shield increases to a maximum of 50% of the Guardian Druid's HP. This ability is on a 2-minute cooldown. Just as before, let's take a peek at these abilities in action. My first impression of Adaptive Swarm is that it would be a welcome addition to a Guardian Druid who isn't necessarily looking for another 3-minute cooldown, but a new addition to his rotation entirely. My thought, however, is that it would require a Bear Druid that excels at managing uptimes, as this ability, when used regularly and properly, could contribute significantly to the output in both healing and damage. A Guardian Druid who prefers to remain in bear form than kite and throw heals as a humanoid would see added benefit from this ability as well. Its value in PvP should be just as obvious as that of the Night Phase, in that you hit one button and are able to stay in bear form while throwing out damage and healing all the same. As for Fleshcraft, it could be extremely beneficial in situations where magic damage is unavoidable. Since the loss of Mark Reversals, our magic mitigation has been entirely reliant on self-healing and survival instincts. Having this ability to potentially absorb up to 50% of magic damage taken could be a massive addition to their damage reduction toolkit. Alright, last up, but most certainly not least, the Kirian. The Kirian are the soul guides responsible for helping move individuals between the lands of the living and the Shadowlands. They value humility and the relinquishing of one's past life, and above all, seek righteousness. Bastion is the home to the Kirian, and its floating spires and structures will be the first places you encounter when plunging into the Shadowlands. The blessings granted to Guardian Druids who take up the vows of the Kirian are the ability to tether their spirit to that of another and channel power back and forth between that link. They also have the ability to call on a steward to bring forth a vial of serenity, to aid them in battle, or for help with other miscellaneous services. The first ability, Kindred Spirits, forms a bond with an ally, and every minute that bond can be empowered, giving you an effect from their side and them an effect from yours. As a Guardian Druid, you cause 40% of the damage your ally might take to be redirected back at you unless you fall below 20% health. If fighting alone, you gain the Lone Spirit connection, which reduces damage taken by 10% for 10 seconds. The second ability, Summon Steward, allows you access to an immediate use consumable called the Phial of Serenity, which restores 20% health and removes all curses, diseases, poisons, and bleed effects. Alternatively, you may converse with your steward to find other accessibilities he provides outside of combat. Now let's take an actual look at these abilities.
Yes. My pleasure. How do you do? Goodbye, my friend. The steward's job is never done. This place won't.
My first impression of Kindred Spirits is that it is extremely party-centric in its useful applications. However, if your playstyle and desired content falls within that niche, then it is a very powerful spell. Having the ability to take damage away from a co-tank in a raid, a party member targeted by a dungeon boss ability, or even a twos partner getting tunneled while also being empowered can be the difference between life and death for not just that player, but also the team. Even solo, having a minute cooldown on a 10% damage reduction can be very useful, especially if your defensive toolkit is built properly to incentivize shorter cooldowns of other spells and abilities. In fact, it's not far-fetched to believe yourself able to run with near 100% uptime on some heavy defensives. As for your steward, he too seems to be more of a niche savior. As a druid, you already have the ability to remove curse and poison effects from yourself and allies, which leaves only bleeds, diseases, and HP restore. While I've seen extremely heavy bleed effects in higher keys wipe a party, your inability to share the file with teammates really diminishes this ability's value. It should be noted, however, while it is a consumable, it can be used in ranked PvP, which could prove very helpful against heavy dot-based teams. So let's take a look at what we've just gone over. If you're a Guardian that doesn't enjoy sacrificing tankiness for output, but also enjoys having a greater role in the team than just taking the hits, Night Fae may be a path worth looking into. If you're as headfirst in content as you were in life, placing value on damage and having a firm grasp of your abilities and what comes next, both in your lineup and the encounter, then the Ventier could be a very strong ally for you. If you value your friends as much as you look for opportunities to strike at the enemy and also want to diversify your regular rotation, the Necrolords could be your calling. And finally, if you value the bond between allies overall in order to overcome any content, you might look for your own wings and take to the skies with the Kirian. Regardless of which covenant you choose, success in-game is both defined and accomplished by you and those you choose to allow to accompany you on the way. I hope this guide helps lend some assistance in your decision. As for me, I believe the Ventier best suits my playstyle and my mentality. And if you're looking for ways in which this covenant's abilities synergize with different legendaries, check out some of my recent videos, linked below. Alright guys, and we are at the conclusion of the video. I hope everybody enjoyed watching it as much as I did making it. If you did, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Share it with a friend even. It really helps me out in spreading the word of Rage. If you really enjoyed what you saw, feel free to hop over on Twitch. Talk to me about Guardian Druids, or any Druid for that matter. Love to see you there. Hope you guys have a fantastic rest of the day. Tell another player you're proud of them and someone you know you love them. And I'll see you guys next time. Remember, we rage because we care.
You